All right. It looks like folks are trickling in. I'm going to get us started. Since we only have the hour today, I'll try and make the best use of it as possible. But my name is Danielle Hubley. I am Advocacy and Education Manager with the Partnership for Strong Communities. And today you are joining us for our legislative session and budget briefing. The goal of today's conversation is to review the governor's budget and opportunities for affordable housing advocacy in the 2025 legislative session. You'll have the opportunity to hear from Ghio, our policy director at the partnership, and Bill Welz with Gallo and Robinson, one of our lead lobbyists and supporters at the Capitol. And like I said, their goal is to provide information on housing-related investments in the governor's proposed budget and key housing policy proposals that the partnership is tracking this session. And we will close out today's conversation with time for your questions. So please use the chat box at the bottom right-hand side of your screen to throw your questions at us, and we will do our best to get through as many as we can in the time allotted. And my last piece is that today's conversation is being recorded and will be published to our YouTube channel along with presentation slides. So if you're looking for any of this material beyond today's conversation, it will be available on our YouTube channel and likely somewhere on our website as well. So just a really quick run through of what we'll be discussing today. As I said, we'll provide an overview of the session in 2025, the legislative session here in Connecticut, and talk through what's in the governor's proposed budget. Sean will walk us through the partnership's legislative agenda. And then we'll close out with opportunities for advocacy. And like I said at the start, any questions that you all have, we'll try and get to answer as many as we can. So without further ado, I believe Bill Welz is ready to jump in and get started on his content. Just let me know when you want me to advance my slides.
Hey guys, Bill Wells. I've been blessed to get to work with the partnership since 2019, and we're excited for probably, to us, feels like the most normal legislative session since the pandemic. I would just say before I start off into my slides that this is the first time since the pandemic where I see the majority of legislators back in the building, back in committee meetings, actually there in person. I'm not saying there aren't times where we aren't seeing legislators on Zoom, but I would say that's now not the norm. The norm is that members are there actively participating in person, in the hallways, lobbying again. The building really feels like it used to back before the pandemic, and I think that's a remarkable thing, and a testament to how well we got out of it a couple years ago. So with that, I'll give you guys an update on where things are at. Go ahead, Danielle. So, for folks that are, just to catch everybody up on the state house and the state senate, right now, the way the numbers sit, that Democrats are holding a strong majority in both chambers. In the House, it's 102 to 449. It's technically a little less than that right now because we do have one House member who did not take the oath, but there will be a special election for that, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the leadership, it remains the same. Matt Ritter is still the Speaker of the House. Jason Rojas is the Majority Leader, and Vin Candelora is holding the House Minority Leader. If the Democrats keep their seat, if the Democrats keep these numbers, they will maintain their veto-proof majority in the House. In the Senate, once again, the numbers are also largely in favor of the Democrats, 25 to 11. They also have a veto-proof majority. They've had one, and they continue to have one. Marty Looney is still leading off the Senate. Bob Duff is still supporting him as majority leader. And Stephen Harding, who came in midway last year as minority leader, is now minority leader again. And then, as I said, those numbers will be a little different too because the Republicans actually have a state senator who didn't take the oath, which will be on the next slide. We can go right to it. So here's where the special elections are happening. So we had two legislators who did not take the oath and created a vacancy. State Rep Christine Connolly, if any of you guys have been to the lobbying conference that Gallo Robinson has done for the past couple of years, she's been my co-presenter for the past 3 years. So I'm going to miss her terribly because she was a great understanding force and how things worked in the Capitol. And she sat right next to Jason Rojas, which was always a good person for me to kind of bug to see where things were moving on. And I'm going to miss her, but I wish her the best of luck in her new job. And if she gets confirmed by the legislature. And then Senator Kevin Kelly, who's been around for a long time himself, is also took another state job. So those seats are open, and there will be a special election in both those districts. And we will see if the numbers flip or change or stay the same. And that will be coming up, before we know it. All right, now on to this year. So what are we doing this year? Well, we're in the long session, and it really is long. I call a short session a sprinter. This is a marathon, 22 weeks long. We started on January 8th. We're going to be here till June 4th, 2025. This is the budget setting year. It's the most, it's a really important year because this is the year that they really get into the nitty gritty and build the biennium budget, and they do so with the most current data and info that's available from tax revenue, expenditures, and federal funds. All those numbers are kind of, all three of those words are very scary at this point because tax revenue right now looking great. We'll talk about that a little later. The state is performing very well. Expenditures, all need to go up, as we all know. And federal funds received, well, question mark on what that will look like under the current president administration, but we'll know a little more as they get in, as Congress gets into their budget setting year as well. But in the long session, legislators can propose any legislation they want. So in the beginning of session, you see a ton of bills. So you get flooded with bills. There's like 3,000 bills right now. It's because any member of the General Assembly can put in any bill they want in a long session. Um, but besides that, all other bills must be raised by committees, the governor, or be emergency certified bill. Even though I just want to let folks know, even though a legislator proposed a bill, unless that bill has been acted on by the committee, meaning that bill has been either taken to be drafted by the committee or raised for public hearing, that bill is going nowhere. So the deadline may have passed for legislators to propose their bills, but you're still seeing in committees that they're actually taking proposed bills and they're doing stuff with them. If nothing happens with a bill that you're watching, if the committee never takes it and sets it for any hearing or for drafting, etc., that bill is essentially dead after the committee's proposed bill deadline, which I think has passed for most of the smaller committees. Um, the rules for session were adopted on opening day. They all came in and gavelled in and voted on them. That's what governs how many committees there are, deadlines, how many members serves on the committees, etc. Some dates to keep in mind. Some of this stuff already happened. Governor already did the state of the state. The governor already put out the budget. The budget what came out last week, and it already feels like it was 3 weeks ago because I've spent way too much time reading it. I know Sean has too. But we're now into the appropriations hearing time starting tomorrow. And so pretty much every night that the legislature's in session during the week, there will be a different subcommittee hearing from folks on the impacts of the governor's budget. And so this is the time, if you have line item funding, or there's things that you would like the legislature to do that the governor didn't do, or you'd like to say the governor did a good job and the legislature should to take the governor's recommendation and do it, this is the time to do it. So those will be happening now from the 11th to the 26th. Just some important deadlines to keep in mind. The Appropriations Committee has to do their budget by the 25th, and the Finance Committee will have to do their tax and revenue package the day before on the 24th. Connecticut does not have a Ways and Means Committee, so we don't have one unicameral committee that does both spending and budgeting. We have two separate committees. And for you housing folks, the earliest JF deadline in the year is always to the housing committee. And, starting tomorrow, they'll have a month left before they have to get all their work publicly heard and voted out. So that, they run pretty fast at this point. The Planning Development Committee is a committee, and they have a little more time to handle the larger issues of zoning. And those will happen. Their JF deadline is March 31st. And then, as I said earlier, the last day of session is June 4th. some hearing dates that I know of, just to keep you guys apprised. We did hear it's not in the bulletin yet, and it's not available to sign up, but we have been told that the just cause eviction hearing will be on Tuesday, February 18th. So if that's something that you guys are willing to support, I know the partnership is. Please put that on your calendars and get ready for signups. Though the signups usually come out 5 days before the hearing. Well, they have to come out statutorily 5 days before the hearing. So I imagine we'll be seeing a posting by the end of the next week. Um, Also, a date that we're aware of on the appropriation side, conservation and development, where the housing Department of Housing funding lives, will be on Wednesday, February 26th at 4:30 p.m. Once again, those signups should be out sometime this week, and so keep an eye on your inboxes or from notifications from the partnership on how to sign up and submit testimony on the housing budget. Finance, revenue, and bonding will do a actual hearing on the governor's bond package, but that date is to be determined. So what are things looking at right now for the state and its finances? Well, pretty good. The state has enjoyed surpluses for the past couple years, and this year looks to be no different. The latest estimates from the comptroller have us ending at 443 million by the time that this FY ends, which is actually a not as good as 2023, but still pretty close. It was a little closer earlier in the year, but now that people are starting to do their tax returns and starting to file, the state is starting to see the returns and starting to determine surpluses. Those numbers will shift every month. Every first of the month, the comptroller puts out a new number. The OFA, the Legislature's Office of Fiscal Analysis, kind of confirms it. And then they continue. I say the month to always watch the state budget is April. April is where basically all the decisions of the budget are made based on the revenue projections of April, because by the time the revenue projections come out in May, they're already way too far in the process. That doesn't mean they can't switch a few things based on revenue projections, but I would say the majority of the budget is built on the April projections. And as you guys see, some hard choices in the past, along with some boosts in recovery, we have surpluses not only in the past, but we have them in the out years, going all the way up to 2028, where the surpluses are even larger than we've ever seen in a long time. And it's funny to think of a number, and this is how OFA always says it's 1.294 million. I mean, that's $1.2 billion essentially. So that will, 2028 is going to enjoy a pretty large surplus if that hangs true. Nope, we're into housing.
I think you're done, Bill.
All right.
So Danielle, we're going to hold questions for Bill until the end. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm Sean Ghio. For those I have met, I'm the policy director here at Partnership for Strong Communities. And as Bill mentioned, the governor's budget proposal was released last week. We pored over it over the last few days, looking for all housing related items. I think we caught all of them, but we probably sort of maybe missed one or two that someone else might find. If you do, let me know. Also, we sent out a budget update Friday morning, detailing all the housing related items in the budget, both appropriations and the capital budget. And if you have not seen that and you want it, let us know. I can send it to you. I don't think it's up on our website just yet, but I'm happy to be corrected if I'm wrong by someone at the partnership. Just some of the headlines from the governor's budget. In the capital budget is continued investments he's proposing in housing control, affordable housing development, $800 million over the 2-year budget, including $650 million in the Housing Trust Fund and Flex funds. Those are the two main funds that the state uses to develop and rehabilitate affordable housing. There's also increases for rental assistance, something the partnership's been advocating for a few years. We have Connecticut's lucky to have a rental assistance program, a housing voucher program that similar to the federal housing vouchers Section 8 program that a lot of people are familiar with. But so there's new funding in that, both in adjustments to the baseline funding and also increased funding proposed in the second year of the biennial budget um, that would, oh, Chelsea's dropping the full budget breakdown in the chat. Anyway, there's a proposed additional funding in the RAP program and the FY27 that would serve. They're estimating about 700 additional households, 425 elderly and disabled renters, and 275 families with young children through the Head Start on Housing program at DOH. Next slide, please, Dana. A few other highlights from the governor's budget. New position. They're proposing a new position in the Department of Housing in their asset management unit. Additional funding for the opportunity hubs and eviction prevention. And as I mentioned in the last slide, 8.7 million beginning in 2027 to expand RAP. And then, as I mentioned, there's some baseline adjustments also to funding. And in DECD, Department of Economic and Community Development, there's additional resources for the Municipal Redevelopment Authority, which was created a few years ago and is now staffed. David Corris is I don't know what this title is, executive director, perhaps. I don't know. It's a quasi-public agent authority. And one that we are watching closely and as a real opportunity to develop housing and redevelop housing in our city centers and our town centers. And so a real great initiative that we're looking forward to seeing how it progresses this year, and the governor's looking to expand its funding. So the governor, when he releases his budget, also releases their legislative priorities. He had a number of them. Don't remember off the top of my head, but many more than the three I'm highlighting here. But there are three that are related to housing, that touch on housing. The first, SB 1248, and the Act expanding consumer protections. Broadly is around transparency, price transparency, and junk fees. And housing is just one part of that, but as part of that, landlords are required to disclose fees up front in advertising and in conversations with tenants. Next, SB 1252 is an initiative from the governor trying to find ways to bring the developer community, builders, and municipalities together, try to make it easier to build housing. We're still reading through all these, but I can tell you is that the bill language exchanges for municipalities making some changes to their zoning would give those municipalities a easier path to a moratorium under our state's Affordable Housing Appeals Law, Section 830G. So that's of concern to us, and we're going to continue to look at the bill a little more closely and try to learn more about the intentions behind it. I can say right now, one of our concerns is trading away parts of our state's Affordable Housing Appeals Law for promises, or in this case, zoning changes. People don't live in zoning changes. People don't live in plans. People live in homes. And that's the great thing about the 830G. It's related to the creation of homes, not intentions. And then finally, SB 1245, an act establishing a resilient Connecticut strategy, is a big bill. And it has some really laudable goals around preparing us for as a state to respond and prepare for climate change. And these are particularly around our coastal communities. There's a lot of risk that we're going to have to manage, and we're also very developed around our coasts. We're looking closer at how we need to do further review on how this might impact overall housing supply, and specifically creation of affordable housing or preservation of affordable housing. And one other thing I didn't note on the slide here, but that I'm very curious about, there's some provisions around transfer of development rights. If you're a policy nerd, that's an interesting tool that's really not been used in Connecticut to try to prioritize and reward basically funding or creation of development, not just housing, in places that make sense in the state's estimation. And in this case, it's related to climate resiliency and existing infrastructure, et cetera. So that's a really interesting bill. All three of these bills from different angles, are looking at different aspects of housing, and we'll be following them closely. Next slide. All right, I will quickly run through partnerships policy priorities and hopefully tie that back some to what we've seen in the governor's proposals and some of the bills that we see already at the legislature. But first, I'd say that this framing of these four concepts: affordability, creation, choice, and stability. This is really how we organize our work now at the partnership. These are the elements of a healthy housing system. And we try to think about our policies and that we're proposing, and the things that the state needs around housing related in these sort of four areas. So related to affordability, I mentioned we have been for a few years now asking the state to really expand its funding for its housing voucher program. The RAP program is very successful assistance to families and supports our lowest income families, our most vulnerable families. We've done a lot of research and continue to research around the program, and we've learned one thing. We've learned is a lot of more than half, I think it's about 60% of recipients of RAP are elderly or disabled. So and they're of the lowest income really households. Some of the lowest income households are served by the program. So I mentioned earlier, there's the governor's budget does have some proposals to increase funding, but and it does not include additional funding for new RAPs in the first year of the biennium. And you could see in FY27, I think I mentioned earlier that they are proposing increases in three very important populations, elderly, disabled, and young families on Head Start and housing program. We'd really like to see, we appreciate the governor's recognized need to expand funding for the program in 2027, but we like to see that moved up to 2026. We know the needs there now. They don't see any reason to delay it. Asking if they could think about phasing in the additional funding earlier than 2027 to do it in the upcoming fiscal year. Next slide. This is just some of our rationale around that. Is it's hard to use a voucher. It's hard to rent a home. And we know we have so many families and other vulnerable renters on the edge of homelessness or experiencing homelessness now. There's really no reason to delay that increased funding. And we'd like to see that happen sooner rather than later. And another effort that we're supporting, there's some efforts to create an income disregard for earnings of employed non-head of household young adults. So, excuse me, if you have, Dara, I'll get you a question in 1 minute. Thanks. For young adults, so that if you have a teenager or a young adult living in your home and you have a RAP voucher, we don't want to disincentivize work, right? So we're very supportive of that policy. Dara, go ahead.
Thanks, Sean. Wouldn't one of the arguments for more wraps now be how much has been used and sort of a demand analysis? Because my sense, I mean, I know anecdotally we've all heard that they've been fully allocated, and I think there are a lot of new deals that could use them and existing deals that could use them, but it's all anecdotal. And I think the most powerful argument you would have here is like, look, it's housed this thousands
Mhm.
of households at these levels of income, and there's a pipeline of deals that could serve these very low income households if there was available resource in the upcoming year.
Absolutely. And I know I can't see her, but I know Chelsea's probably uh, squirming in her seat, wanting to reply, because we have done all of that. We've looked at a lot of that. We have that data, and we can see exactly the
Oh,
populations of
great.
folks that
Okay.
are.
Terrific.
And but one piece that I think we want to connect on is the second piece you said, the other side of that, which is the deals, right?
Right.
So if well, let's talk about that and see how we can.
100%. You
Thank
bet.
you. So Bill mentioned there's the this portion of the budget will be heard at the appropriations subcommittee, conservation and development subcommittee hearing, and it's coming up on the 26th. And watch out for an action alert from email, or we haven't gotten it to yet, but on our website you can find all of our legislative emails or testimony, etc. So you can check there too for upcoming hearings. And also, I just these two images are just examples of some of the materials we have available on each of our priorities to try to break down and fact sheets to understand what the need is, but also the complexity of the programs. These programs can be very hard to understand. The one on the right is interesting. I'll just say that's a map of where existing voucher holders, wrap voucher holders, are living. And we have that's just a little piece of the data that we have available. And I mentioned earlier that too, we're doing some research. We have um, uh, doing quite a bit of research on best practices around rental assistance vouchers and the costs associated with expanding the program. Uh, Next, please. Thank you. So our second pillar, creation, I mentioned, and the governor really is proposing close to what we are hoping to see, which is continued large investment in the two main funding pools that the state uses for affordable housing development, housing trust fund, and the housing program, otherwise known as Flex. Um, can you next slide? So the chart on the right, you could see is really, you could see that progression of an expansion in bond authorizations over the last several fiscal years. The last two that's what we'd like to see. And the governor's proposal comes pretty close at 800 million. And one thing we would like to see is more targeting toward the lower end of the income spectrum. I think we have seen a lot of conversation and a lot of focus around sort of more moderate income, and when we know the greatest need for stable, affordable housing is actually at the lowest income levels in the state, and those are the type of housing that's very difficult for anyone to build as without subsidy. Dara was mentioning vouchers. That's one form. Another form is to build that right into the deal using these funds. So we know there's a big gap. There's about 93,000 extremely low income renter households that cannot afford their rent right now. So we'd like to see a greater focus on these scarce dollars at that lower end of the spectrum, income spectrum. Next. All right, I'm going quick. Choice. This is where really where you see the idea that we want to make it easier to build homes all across the state, and we are supporting the Work Live Right Act that Desegregate Connecticut is championing again this year. It passed the House last year. I might be getting ahead of myself on the slides, but it passed the House last year. You can go to the next slide, Danielle. And it was already heard in a public hearing earlier this month or year. Maybe was it 2 years ago, Bill? I don't know. What was it, like 2 days ago? I have no idea. But but it's not too late to submit written testimony in support of any bill that's already passed a public hearing. So if you want to see bills like Work, Live, Ride pass, make incentivizing the development of housing, affordable housing, and market rate housing near our existing infrastructures, please submit that. And if you need help finding out how to submit it, please reach out to us, Danielle, myself. We can help you find exactly how to do that. Bill mentioned some few thousand bills that are out there this year so far. I'm tracking with a very discerning eye over 200. But there's themes that develop, and one of the themes is definitely weakening the Affordable Housing Appeals Act, Section 8-30G, and which has now been around. Well, I guess it's probably 34, 35 years. And Unfortunately, there's a lot of focus from folks to trying to weaken one of the only tools that we have. I mentioned that there's some concern over one of the governor's bills, but there's many others. And some of those are beginning to see public hearings. The Housing Committee is going to hold a public hearing on the 13th that Bill mentioned. And there are a couple bills on that hearing related to A30G that are not good. And Bill Wells raised his hand. Go ahead, Bill.
You didn't have to stop talking. I was just going to say,
Oh, I lost you.
I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry. You didn't have to stop talking. I was just going to say, when it comes to testimony, I see 53 people on this meeting right now, and that's remarkable. Great. Awesome. Sean's right. The Work, Live, Ride bill happened last week, but you can actually submit all the way up until they actually pass the bill out of committee, and then essentially it's a cutoff point. Your testimony won't make it into the report at that point if you submit it after that. But I'll pose a challenge to all of you that would be one better than just testifying. I see 53 people on here. What I see right there is 106 legislative contacts right in our email. And the reason why is because you all have two opportunities to contact somebody. You can take your testimony, you can turn it into email, you can send it to your state senator and your state rep. And if all 53 of you did that today, that would be a big help towards these different proposals. So I recommend not only everybody to testify, but turn your testify into an email, send it to your state senator, send it to your state rep. If you're, I don't really advise you go outside your district and send things to outside your district unless unless the bill is directly related to somewhere you work. And then I say that you should also send it to the state senator and state rep from where you are employed, because it is a workplace issue. And as a worker who maybe needs TOD access where you work, you can then send it to that state senator and state rep too, because they obviously care about your wonderful organization in their districts. So use the opportunity to do more than just testify whenever you can.
Thanks, Bill. And you can find, I mentioned we have fact sheets, explainers on all of our policy priorities. You can find all of that on our website, as well as I saw Chelsea dropped a link to our Take Action page, where you can find a lot of additional information on how to submit testimony. So this hearing coming up on the 13th also has two bills that proposed by each chamber's leadership, SB 12, Senate Bill 12. Oh, it's not SB 5002, it's HB 5002. And those are like these empty vessel bills that some people call them aircraft carriers or omnibus bills. And so we know both chambers care about housing, and housing's become much more of a focus than it's been in the past. And Majority Leader Rojas is really and Senator Leader Duff have been real leaders on this. They're working on their own bills that are not, I think, fleshed out yet. But these vessels will have will also be on that agenda on the 13th. It's an opportunity to submit testimony just more generally saying how important housing is to the state, affordable housing and otherwise, and just another opportunity to let our legislators know how critical housing is to our success. Next. And finally, our fourth, you said four. I can't now. I'm totally blanking, Bill. And fourth area is stability, right? Resident stability, and again, for the second year, we're supporting the efforts to expand just cause eviction protections in Connecticut, supporting the efforts of the Connecticut Tenants Union, Connecticut Fair Housing Center, and other advocates. Next slide. So as Bill mentioned, it's the word is there's going to be a public hearing about a housing committee on just cause on the 18th. It's not it's not on the calendar yet, and there's now a bill number. Unless Bill, you'll let me know if I'm wrong, if it's changed, but HB 6889. So it would expand just cause protections to all tenants in complexes of 5 or more units after the first 12 months of tenancy. And elderly and disabled tenants, elderly, I think is 62 and older, are already covered by just causes to expand those current protections. You can learn more about the campaign at cttenantsunion.com. And also on our website, we have other materials related to just cause eviction. Next. Okay, Danielle, that's you.
Yeah, I'll take it from here. Just a reminder as we start to come up on our close today is 4:30. So please feel free to drop questions in the chat. We'll make space for trying to get through as many as possible. But just really quickly, just to build off of what Sean was saying, this is a sort of standard placeholder, and Bill was saying as well too, right? Like there's many different ways you can be engaged in advocacy for folks who are interested in impacting legislative change. As Bill said, call your legislators, share our fact sheets and materials on the items that are on our agenda that are most relevant and most important to you and your work, and participate in the public hearing process. And outside of the hearing process, make sure you're maintaining relationships with your legislators and other advocates in the space. Additionally, if you want to engage others, we always love seeing opinion pieces folks are writing to be published in local newspapers. We know that our legislative elected officials are looking at those. So it's a great way to put your perspective out to the world and reach a wider audience. There's also always rallies, phone banks, and letter writing campaigns that are going on this time of year. So keep an eye out for those. It's a great way to get engaged. And I know that the Tenants Union is doing a lot of great grassroots type organizing and conversations with folks in the communities that they're living in. So please tune into what they've got going on as they're doing a great wealth of organizing more locally. And also, if you're looking to support longer term systems reform, right, think about philanthropic contributions contributing towards housing advocacy. We're always really supportive of working in coalition and in partnership with others. Housing is inherently an intersectional issue, so it is going to take a wide range of folks weighing in on the housing crisis we face today to move us to more stability and more safety in our housing system. And towards that same end, encourage advocates in other sectors. Housing is something that touches everybody. It's not something that exists in a vacuum. So the more people we have weighing in on this issue, the more likely we are to see some movement. Well, I jumped ahead too fast, but this QR code, I'll just leave it up for a second. We're trying something new this year, but we are looking to see how you are most interested in engaging in advocacy. So if your preference is to write opinion pieces, if your preference is to give your legislator a call, we want to know that. We want to know what issues on our legislative agenda are most important to you, so we can tap you when you're most interested in being engaged. If you sign up for our newsletters and our action alerts, you'll get all of this information. But this just gives us a way to identify folks who are really interested in being an active part of our housing advocacy this year. So let us know how we can engage you, and we'll for sure be in touch. Alrighty, this is my dog Wendell. He loves when you ask questions. So if you have any questions, now is the opportunity to drop them in the chat, or I know we had somebody come off of mute earlier or raise their hand, so whatever way you feel comfortable engaging, we're here to answer questions for you. I see Mark's hand up.
Thanks, Danielle. Hi, everyone. Hey, Sean. Nice to see you.
Hey, Mark.
Thank you for going through this. It's extremely helpful for me. Um, I have the governor's your blog from the 7th up, and I'm gonna refer to that when I write testimony for my organization. Is it also possible to get a copy of the slides you showed today as an additional resource?
Yeah, I'm sure that Danielle, is that something we could put up on the website perhaps? I'm sure we
Yeah,
could.
usually we try and attach them into the
Oh, okay.
YouTube recording too, so we'll make sure that they're available though.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, it'd be great to refer to both, but this is really helpful. I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Mark.
Carla, I see your hand up.
Hi, yes, I'll add my thanks. Oh, I'm looking away, but
It's okay.
I'm looking at the wrong screen. My question is maybe to Bill, just in light of the disappearance of federal funding, those estimates of the surpluses for the state, has anybody, I mean, everything is unknowable right now, but has anybody started looking at, if we have to start funding Medicaid more or that sort of thing, how that's going to get modified?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the talk of the building. You hit the nail right on the head, what everybody is talking about and thinking about. But, the sun is shining until it's not. And right now I would say that the things to be thankful for on February 10th is that the state has these record surpluses, that the governor has probably met the legislature on a lot more priorities than he has ever had in the history, at least since I've been here. I mean, the governor did a solid job on producing a budget that gets closer on a lot of core issues that a lot of folks on this call have been lobbying for years. The partnership, we've been talking about RAP for a long time, and to actually see real dollars put in there, even if it's not exactly where we want it yet, but it's still good to see advocacy paying off and for a real attentive ear from the governor. So these are good things to know about. The reality is that Congress does budgeting in a completely different way, irregardless of the way that Connecticut does budgeting. And we don't know what kind of budget the president's going to pass or try to pass, and we don't know what kind of budget Congress is going to agree to. And until we can get some kind of clarity of what earmarks are going to look like and how things are going to be broken down, the state has to kind of continue on what it knows. It can only budget on what it knows. And so, yeah, there might be some discretionary funding that might, that the executive branch has a little more control over, that might impact things. And I would say to anybody on this call, to the extent that you are aware that some of that more discretionary funding, where the executive branch, when I say executive, the president and the administration has the ability to not spend, and folks are feeling the impact and it's related to housing, please let Sean know so that he can let me know. We can figure out if there is a state solution for it. But the reality of this is that it's very possible that Congress will set a budget that is completely contrary to the budget that the legislature passes by June 4th, and that because of the constitutional mandate that the legislature has to pass a balanced budget and the budget must remain in balance. If the costs to the state outweigh the ability for the governor to do 5% withholding from every line, and he has to come up with more cuts, the legislature will have to come back in, and the legislature will maybe come back in if they want to try to kind of fix some of those cuts. So we could very much be, if what the president says is real and he gets his way, we could very much be in a perpetual state of fixing the budget in Connecticut, which will not be fun for anybody. But for today, that is not what's happening. And for today, we have a governor's budget to react to, and that's all we can kind of work off of.
Yeah, I just add Bill's regularly needs to calm us with the facts, right? And the facts are what he laid out right now. That's today, and so the rest of it is sort of anticipation and speculation, although maybe stronger than speculation because we've definitely heard the direction the president wants to go in. Thanks, Bill.
While we wait to see if folks have any other questions, I'm just going to drop a few links and share my final slide for you all. Really just reiterating what we've already said here today, but I wanted to make sure it was on your radars. Again, a reminder that this Thursday, the 13th, we have the Housing Committee public hearing. There's a ton of housing bills on there. I've dropped the link for our Take Action and Stay Connected pages. Both of those will allow you to the Take Action page will allow you to directly write to your representatives on any variety of bills that are on our agenda or are coming up for hearings. And the Stay Connected page will allow you to sign up for our emails and action alerts, which is where we send all of this information to everybody throughout the course of session. So definitely check out those pages. And like Bill said earlier, we anticipate the Appropriations Conservation and Development Subcommittee hearing will be on February 26th, which is a Wednesday. And I forgot to mention, but with the Housing Committee, we are anticipating a potential hearing on Tuesday, the 18th next week, which likely would include Just Cause. So keep an eye out. We'll be sending out information. It'll exist on this Take Action page as soon as we have the information to share with you all. And if you're looking for other places to plug into the housing conversation, there's many more beyond these two, but I just wanted to name way early in the year that in September of this year in New Haven, the National YIMBY Town Conference will be hosting their 2025 conference in New Haven. September 14th, 15th, and 16th. So really excited to have YIMBY folks here for a national sort of focused conversation, but with our Connecticut, rallying within Connecticut. And then as always, we host our annual Affordable Housing Conference. This is the partnership's been hosting since, I believe, 2020. So we'll be hosting again this year, 2025. Plan to join us November 17th and 18th. Right now, it's just to save the date. More information will be coming. But those are some other places where there'll be a lot of discussion around housing policy and advocacy. So we're excited to promote those and have folks join us.
And then one last thing, hearing of note, the hearing details are not out for it, but on Thursday, February 20th, that will be the day that the Appropriations Committee does elementary and secondary education. And why am I talking about that with the housing folks? Well, because one of the items that Sean listed, those Head Start vouchers, are actually going to be worked within OEC. So the housing folks actually have a early childhood provision to support as well. So if some of you folks are really focused on that aspect of the vouchers, the helping out the early childhood front, that's the day to go testify in support of that in front of the Appropriations Subcommittee. And once again, stay tuned for Sean's and Danielle's emails because they will put that hearing info for it together for you.
Yeah. Dara, I see your hand up, Dara.
Yeah, sorry. And Bill might have said this right at the beginning when he was talking about how the LOB is now full of people and like back to real life. Are they providing for these hearings? Are they providing links that you can listen in and watch in, or is that a thing of the past now?
You mean to follow the public hearings and the
Yeah.
committee meetings?
Yeah.
So if you're not testifying and you just want to watch, yes, the wonderful thing is that the CGA website still has those. If you click on any link on the CGA website, it will tell you how to actually view the committee live while it's happening. So
Okay.
because we still have some members on Zoom, they're maintaining the Zoom functionality of it, so you can kind of still see the whole hearing happening,
Okay.
regardless if it's on CTN or not, which is a nice feature.
Okay. Yeah, if when you guys send those out, I mean, assuming if we can't like physically be there, it would be fantastic if there's that info is in the emails as well, just in case there's stuff we really want to listen in for.
Yeah, and I believe they're all recorded. They're saved up there on YouTube also. So we'll send that link, Dara, and each committee I think has its own YouTube page, and we will include that in our communications.
Awesome. Thank you both.
Alrighty. Well, Sean and Bill did an incredible job running through the information, a lot of information. Hopefully not too quickly, but there's a lot to digest. So, like we said, there's tons of resources that exist on our website, partners' websites as well. If you're looking for more info, you can always reach out to myself or Sean or anybody from the partnership team, and you'll get some good answers. I will leave the space open for a little bit longer in case there are any lingering questions. But for folks who've been with us for the hour, thank you so much for joining us. And we're really grateful to have you as a part of our advocacy base here in Connecticut and looking forward to the work ahead. Mark, I see your hand up.
Thanks, Danielle. I just wanted to follow up on the hearing on the 13th. So is it that there's the housing committee's meeting on the 13th and the 18th, and it's just that it's a different set of bills being reviewed at each one? Okay.
Yes, that's right. They have to release when they have a public hearing. They have to release an agenda. How many days ahead, Bill? Why don't I remember any of that? 5 days ahead. So the 18th we do not have that yet, but the 13th, the agenda for the 13th we do have, and there Chelsea just shared it.
Okay, cool.
And I'll just warn you, Mark, 5 days can includes weekends. So for some agenda items, if the hearing, my least favor is when they occur on Tuesdays, because they can actually with the hearing, they can put the agenda out on Friday and everybody's off having a good weekend, not thinking about testifying, don't blame you, having a life, and then boom, you're before you know it, you're trying to catch up on your emails on Monday and you missed your time to sign up to testify. So just always keep an eye on Friday notifications, because Thursday, Friday notifications can be the real killers, and you can miss your opportunity to testify before you know it.
That's crazy.
Yep. It does count weekends. Yep.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much. I just dropped my email in the chat, so if you have questions, if you think of something as soon as we drop off today and you want to shoot me a message, we'll be in touch. But thank you for joining us and have a wonderful rest of your Monday.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
See you all, everyone.